right? And in the form of an assignment, demonstrate an understanding of that work. Okay. When people complete work at college, in the workplace, I'm sure that everybody understands in this age now with Google, IT, lots and lots of different resources, it's quite easy, right, to go out there and get the answers to various different questions. It's quite easy to access lots and lots of different forms of learning and education via the internet, which is fantastic. It's a brilliant resource, but unfortunately, it doesn't always demonstrate that you understand the learning that you've had access to. And that is one of the reasons why we ask you to do a reflective account. So us as tutors, your employer, endpoint assessment team are all confident that the work you've done, you understand, and you can actually go out into the workplace and put that in place. Okay, so I hope that's sort of set the scene for you in terms of a reflective account and what they are and why we do them. Yeah, is anything that you want to add to that, Darren?
No, mate. Happy with that.
Brilliant. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to actually bring up a reflective account now. Hopefully, you'll all be able to actually see it. Okay, can you see that, Darren?
Yes, mate.
Brilliant. Just guys, just give us a thumbs up if you can actually see that. Okay, so this is the Unit 1 Community Activator Coach Level 2 reflective account. So we're gonna scroll down and have a look at it. Okay, so this is reflective account number 1. If you look in the title at the top, okay, as the title on the slide, how I have successfully demonstrated I can meet the values and responsibilities expected of a coach. Okay, now I've actually, below that, I've actually reflected and came up with an example that a coach may come up with, right, in the workplace. Okay, now there would be lots and lots of different examples where a coach would be able to demonstrate how they've met the values and responsibilities expected of a coach. The example that I've used is, right, increasing numbers on an after-school club, which only had 6 children. Okay, so I'm sure all of you who maybe have been coaching for a little bit longer have probably experienced this. Okay, you've went into an after-school club and it's been really, really low on numbers. Okay, so this is the example that I'm going to use. There'll be lots of other examples out there. It doesn't have to be this. It's about you reflecting back, thinking, right, where have I actually done this? Can I come up with an example, right, of where I have met the values and responsibilities of a coach? Just in the chat box, guys, while you're listening, right, if you can come up with your own examples that you could use to fill in this reflective account, can you just pop them in the chat box for me there? So that's my example. I want you to think and sort of try and come up with your own example as well. Okay, so if we scroll down a bit, okay, so this is about you providing an account, okay, which is approximately 500 words. All right, yeah. So this is a 500-word account of your scenario itself. Okay, and now if you look at the top, it gives you three areas that you need to reference and you need to actually cover. Okay,
Duncan, just on that, can you?
Yeah.
You just said 500 for the account. It's 500. Yeah. 500 words in the 3 sections. So it's
sorry, guys. So that's 500 words in this section itself. Okay. And if we look at the 3 points at the top, these are key areas that you have to cover. Okay, minimum operating standards, company values, company core values, policies and procedures linked to safeguarding of yourself and others, or anybody that you may be working with or coming into contact with when you go into a school. Okay, so we're going to go down and we're going to go through each heading. So when you look at your template, okay, for this account, which is in one file, okay, you will see, right, that it has different headings, which I've highlighted and which are bold here. Okay, so the first heading is, how is this achieved, right, in your organization, or how is this achieved by Premier Sport or by your employer? Okay, so the 3 areas: minimum operating standards, company values, policies and procedures linked to safeguarding self and others. So how is this achieved in your organization? Guys, if you can, if you've got a pen, a piece of paper, I'd like you to try and take some notes, because these are key areas that you need to consider when you're coming up with this part of the reflective account and the 500 words that you need to complete. Okay, so things to consider. Consider qualifications and training you have completed with your employer. Okay, so in the question box, guys, just want you to start putting some things in there, some qualifications and training that you have did with your employer. Okay, so things like, right, if we link it to minimum operating standards, we link it to safeguarding, right, you're going to have things like your safeguarding qualification in there. Okay, your first aid, okay, your minimum, your leading in physical activity qualification. Okay, maybe your gymnastics qualification. Okay, any of the training that you have completed with your employer that links to the three areas at the top. If you look at company core values, that is covered in your induction modules. Okay, so again, these are all things that you need to think about. Okay, second one, okay, DBS. All right, has your DBS letter been sent to the school before you arrive? So I don't know if everybody knows that standard practice for the vast majority of franchisees would be to forward a DBS letter to a new school before you arrive, which would give all your DBS information and a photograph. Okay, this is something that could be reflected and mentioned in your account. Carrying out a risk assessment before the session. Okay, have you done this? Okay, this needs to be mentioned again in this 500 word part of this reflective account. Okay, you can mention you've carried out a risk assessment before the session. Did you plan the session on the BMS before you arrived? So have you arrived prepared with a lesson plan? Right? During your session and before, have you utilized your company's core values? Okay, so have you adhered to core values whilst you're planning before you've got to the school, when you've got to the school? Okay, have you went above and beyond? Potentially, have you rang the school before you've arrived and introduced yourself? Okay, have you taken the time to do that? Okay, and at the end, where did you have to consider the safeguarding and safety of those around you? Okay, so have you considered safeguarding? What sort of things have you thought about? Okay, how have you ensured that the children are safe? My example is in after school club. Okay, did I have a register? Have I thought about where the children are going to be dismissed? Have I thought about who's picking the children up? All of those different things. Okay, so that is about your organization. Okay, so if you haven't got things like, if you haven't got a register when you're starting a new a new after school club, there's an issue. You should be asking your organisation. We're going to move on to yourself, or how was this achieved in your role? Okay. So first one, did you evidence, right, showing your qualifications and minimum operating standards? So did you have evidence? Did you have your DBS with you? Did you have your safeguarding certificate with you? Did you have your first aid certificate with you? Okay, so I recommend all of my coaches, the coaches who work for me, I ask them all to get themselves a little presentation folder. And in that folder, they need to put all of the information that they need to carry with them to a school. So the DBS, first aid certificate, copy of company insurance, any policies and procedures that you need, which can be found on the BMS, health and safety policy, safeguarding policy. Guys, if you don't have that, you really need to consider, right, making one up and ensuring that you carry it with you. Okay. Was any of this information sent to the school before? Okay. Again, we mentioned it in the organisation section. Was it sent to the school before? Was your DBS information sent? Did you send a picture? Okay, things like that add value. Which core values did you use during your session? Okay, and if I link it to my example above, which was having low numbers on a club, did utilizing those core values help you to increase numbers on the club? Okay, so if you've went above and beyond, if you've made the session as much fun as possible, has that helped you increase numbers? Okay, how did you make sure that the school were aware of, or how you were aware of the school policies and procedures? Okay, so you may have arrived at a school armed with Premier Sport policies and procedures, but have you taken the time to ask about the school's policies and procedures? Okay, because their policies and procedures may be slightly different Premier Sports policies and procedures, and it's really important that you know that. Okay, so in this part of the reflective account, you can actually say, I've taken the time when I went into the school to ask about the school's policies and procedures, and if there's anything that I needed to know. Okay, explain how you've been a good role model, right, during the time in school. What sort of things have you done? Have you arrived promptly, on time? Were you correctly dressed? Did you have your ID badge? Okay. Did you present yourself properly when you went into the school? Did you present yourself properly and continue to be that role model with the children? Okay. Did you set good examples? How did you set good examples? Okay. Did you act professionally? How did you act professionally? What did you do? And again, this is with reference to my example. What did you do to increase numbers on this club? Okay, so again, guys, try and take notes, take a screenshot of this. So they're all things to trigger your mind and things that you need to be thinking about when you're doing this account. Okay. So if you did the organizational things, right, and if you did the minimum operating, you more confidence. Okay, so consider that. If you go to school with a first aid certificate, with a DBS, with a safeguarding certificate, right? If you make the school aware that you have all of these qualifications and a set of minimum standards, one of the effects is going to be that the school are going to be more confident in you and what you can deliver. right? Which in turn is going to make you more confident. Okay. Will you be viewed differently by the school? Okay. So one of the things that I say to my coaches on a regular thing is, right, when you walk into a school, I don't want a teacher, right, to be looking out of a classroom window and thinking it's just a coach with a bag of balls and a set of cones, right? I want them very much to look out of the window and see somebody walking into a school who is an educator and who has teaching skills. Okay, it's really important that you change, and it's quite difficult to do, and you have to think, how can I actually do that? So that professionalism, being a role model, having a set of minimum operating standards will start to change how you are viewed. Okay. One of the other effects is feeling safer. Will you and others feel safer? Will you feel comfortable that you're providing a safe environment for everybody that you're working with? Okay. Will you be able to communicate more effectively and engage more children? Okay. Will you get more satisfaction by increasing numbers on your club? So consider the fact of getting more numbers on your club. Will you get more satisfaction? Will the children get more satisfaction? Will the school get more satisfaction? Okay. Will you get better results and more progress with increased numbers on the club? Okay. All right. So what you don't want to do is just think, you know, I've got 5, 6 children on the club. It's not my job, right? I don't need to do anything. I'll just work with these 5 or 6 children. Consider the wider impact. What would happen if you had 10 children? What would happen if you had 12 children? How would you feel? How would the children feel? How would the school feel? Okay. Next part. So what were the key outcomes of these actions? Okay, so if we consider some of the things that we've already discussed, so the minimum operating standards, the DBS, safeguarding, all of those things. What were the key outcomes? Being able to meet school and Ofsted expectations. Okay, this is what a lot of schools, a lot of young coaches may not consider. When you walk into school, the school will have a set of expectations, and they will be looking for you to do and provide various things. Okay, so all of the things we've discussed around roles, responsibilities, and things like that, if you can adhere to those, right, then you will be able to meet the school and Ofsted expectations. One of the other key outcomes is being able to deliver a safe session. Okay, being able to deliver a good to outstanding lesson consistently. Okay, and that should be a target for all coaches. Okay, delivering a good to outstanding lesson consistently. Okay, getting more children engaged and increasing club numbers. Better outcomes for the school. Okay, so if a school has 6 children on, and you increase that to 12 or 14 or even 10 children, that's a better outcome. A better outcome for the school. Okay, it's a better outcome in terms of Ofsted, in terms of how the head teacher views the club, in terms of parents. It's a better outcome for all, increasing that number. Okay, and better results and more business for your employer. Okay, so again, if you increase those numbers, your employer is going to immediately think, fantastic. Okay, more income, more children, more customers. Okay, and then the last one on this on this part, right, is what skills and knowledge did you use? Okay, communication skills. Who did you talk to? When did you talk to them? You know, are you just talking to the children when you're going to do your club, or are you taking the time to talk to parents? Have you been to the reception and said, look, I've only got 6 children on this club. It's quite a low number. Can we do anything about it? Can we work in partnership? Do you have any thoughts? Can we come in and do an assembly? So that communication, right, is a skill that's going to be utilized during this task. Okay? Professionalism, okay, directly linked to the communication. If you go and communicate the fact that you have low numbers, the school are going to immediately think, yeah, you know, this coach is demonstrating professionalism. Okay. Knowledge of minimum operating standards. Okay. So challenge yourself, guys. Do you really know what minimum operating standards are? Do you know what you should have when you go into school? If you don't, ask the question. Okay. I guarantee if I had 10 coaches in front of me now, waiting to go into a school, if I was a betting man, I would probably say that maybe 2 or at least 3 of those coaches would not have their DBS with them. Okay. And that is part of MOS. That is a minimum operating standard. Okay. Knowledge of safeguarding, which is a key area. Understanding of school and employers' policies and procedures. So just the key thing there is school and employers. Okay, that is really important. Being responsible. So taking responsibility for the fact that there's only 6 children on the club, right? Not just thinking, well, that's the school's fault or it's not my fault, right? Taking responsibility for that and thinking, let me go and do something about it. Okay, let me try and increase the numbers on this club. Being adaptable. So if you've got 6, if you went in thinking it's going to be 20 and you've got 6, you're going to have to be adaptable. You're going to have to change things. You're going to have to adapt things. Being able to sell, so selling skills. All right, you're going to have to go and sell the club. To get more numbers, you're going to have to go and sell the club. You're going to have to demonstrate its values. You may have to do an assembly. You may have to speak to parents. You may have to go to your employer and say, you know, can I go and do a playground visit with parents coming into school? Okay. And the bottom one, which is understanding school needs and understanding what the school wants. So certainly in this example, the school does not just want 6 children on the club, right? They want 12 children. They want 20 children, ideally. And if you can help them do that, then that's more power to you as a coach, and you demonstrate your value to the school and to your employer. Okay, guys. If you can think of any other skills or knowledge that you would use in terms of this example, pop them in the question box for me. Okay. So we go on to the second part of the account. Okay, and again, this is 500 words. And if you look at the top there, why do you think this particular scenario is important? Okay, so if we look again, we've got some headings. We've got some headings on there. Okay, so again, refer back to your scenario. Why are these standards, values, policies, and procedures something that a coaching company needs to follow? Okay, so just think for a second about that sentence. Okay, so why are these standards, values, policies, and procedures something that a coaching company or your employer needs to follow? What does that mean? Why do we have to have standards? Why do we have to have values? Why do we have to have policies and procedures? Okay, why are they important? What are they linked to? So if you look underneath, we can see some of the things that I've got down there as examples and things that you could incorporate in your 500 words. Delivering a safe and compliant session. Okay, one of the main things that a head teacher is going to want is confidence that you are providing a safe, compliant session. Right? Confidence that he or she can give you a class of 30 children and they're going to be looked after, and they're going to be safe. Okay. Consider your own and your company's reputation. Okay. So if you look at standards, values, policies, and procedures, they're directly linked to reputation. If you don't have a set of standards, if you don't have company values, if you don't have policies and procedures, that is directly going to affect your reputation. Okay, so that is something that you need to consider. Confidence, consider confidence. Okay, and consider the difference between having all of those things and not having all of those things. Okay, how is that going to affect confidence? Okay, if you walk into a school and the school asks you to see your DBS certificate, if you haven't brought it with you as part of your minimum operating standards, is that going to affect the confidence of the school? It is, right? It's immediately going to trigger something to think, well, you know, these guys are not as professional as they should be. So consider confidence. Consider safety. We've already mentioned that. Okay, if you don't have your DBS, if you don't have your first aid certificate, or is that going to affect the school thinking, are our children going to be safe with this coach or with this person? Okay. Consider who should have access to schools. Okay. Should it be just anybody, right? Or should it be, right, just coaches and people who have a set of minimum operating standards? So should it be, right, a person who has a DBS, a first aid certificate, induction modules, a safeguarding qualification, prevent data protection, all of these different things? Should it be that person? Or should it be a person who just has a level 1 qualification in football and a DBS? Okay, consider that, and consider how a school views that. Okay, consider how you maintain standards. Okay, how does it affect insurance? How does it affect your employer's insurance? If you go into school and potentially you don't have the child has an accident and you don't have a first aid qualification, what are the implications? What are the implications of that? Okay. And if you've got all of the above, if you have standards, values, policies, and procedures, does that have an effect on work? Does that bring you more work? Does that reputation bring you more work? All right. Again, lots of things to consider when you're doing your 500 words. The second part is, what were the challenges you and your company faced, and how did you overcome them? Okay, so if we look at my example, which is low numbers on a club, okay, one of the challenges could potentially be being adaptable and having to change your plans, okay, because you are going to have to do that to reflect the low numbers, and then you may have to change them again if you change that and get higher numbers. Okay, so that could be a challenge, being adaptable and changing things. Maintaining core values when having a small number of children. Okay, so if you've got a small number of children, it may be, or it could potentially be, a demotivating factor for you and for the children. How do you cope with that? Is that a challenge? Right? How do you adhere to core values when having a small number of children? Meeting customer expectations. Okay, so an example of this would be in this club. You know, this club is being sold to a school by Premier Sport. Okay, Premier Sport have told the school it's going to be a fantastic club. The children are going to absolutely love it. But then all of a sudden, right, there's only 6 children on the club. Right, so the school's expectations will change. How do you manage that? Is that a challenge? Okay. Communicating effectively to increase numbers on the club. Okay. Again, that's a challenge. Okay. How are you going to do that? Who are you going to communicate with? Going above and beyond to get a better result. So can you, and we mentioned this previously, can you go above and beyond instead of just saying it's not my issue having low numbers? Can you go above and beyond to get a better result, get more children on the club? Is marketing an issue? Can you access marketing? Can you get more leaflets to get them out to children? Can you get something on Facebook via social media? So all challenges and things that you may want to consider. Okay. And the bottom one, what do you hope the long-term benefit of these standards, values, policies, and procedures will be? Okay. So consider your schools and employers' confidence. Okay. So confidence, increased confidence, is going to be a longer-term benefit. Consider different work environments and types of delivery. Okay. So again, if you have these standards, if you have these minimum operating standards, if you have this commitment to continually upgrading and adhering to these standards, it's going to give you the confidence to work in different environments, utilizing different types of delivery. So maybe moving from an after-school club to a holiday club. It may be, working in an SEN school. Okay, so consider that. Consider your own career development, okay, and how that affects you. So you may have, a lot of apprentices may not actually be looking beyond their apprenticeship at the moment. Can you look beyond that? Can you look at where you want to be in 5 or 10 years' time, and consider, right, how these roles, responsibilities, values, standards, consider the effect that these will have. Consider consistency. Is it going to help you deliver a consistently good to outstanding session? Consider the relationships you have in school and in the wider workplace. Again, this is something that we discussed earlier. Okay, how are you viewed? How does it affect relationships? All right, guys, we're getting pretty close to the end. Okay, so one of the key things that you have to do is consider this knowledge, skills, and behaviors that you've actually learned as part of this task. So when you look at Unit 1 of your apprenticeship, you'll find that there's some resources in there. One of the resources that is in there right at the start of the unit is a set of standards. So that set of standards applies to your apprenticeship. In this case, the level 2 community activator coach. If you look at those standards, they are made up of knowledge, skills, and behaviors. Okay, they're all numbered. All right. So in relation to this task, what we're asking you to do is look at those standards and actually identify which standards you have met whilst doing this task. Okay. So what I've actually done, right, is I've actually picked out just one standard from each of the skill, knowledge, and behavior areas that I feel have been adhered to in this task. Okay. If you're going to complete this and do the 500 words, you're going to actually need to pick out, right, a few skills, a few different areas of knowledge, a few different areas of behavior. But please refer to the standards resource, which is in unit 1. Okay, so if we look at here, skill 1, planning and adapting sessions and activities that respond to customer feedback, encourage customers to develop a lifelong activity habit. So if we look at this particular example, okay, the feedback is we've got low numbers on this club. Okay, so what have you done? How have you adapted? Have you came up with a plan to get higher numbers? Have you responded to the feedback, right? And are you encouraging more children to develop and be active? Okay, so hopefully you will have done that within this task. So knowledge 6, understand the role of a coach in developing effective motivational relationships. How to build rapport, with customers and understand what good role model looks like. So again, if you go back through this task, you will have seen, you will have done these things. Okay, you will have developed relationships by going and communicating to the school about low numbers on the club. Okay, by carrying out that communication, you'll be building a rapport with customers, with your school, with parents. Okay, by understanding what a good role model looks like, hopefully you're going to increase numbers. Okay, so that's knowledge 6. Behavior 5, enthusiasm to work as a member of a team and also to use his or her own initiative when leading or planning activities. Ask yourself a question in relation to this reflective account. Are you going to have to show initiative? Are you going to have to lead? Are you going to have to plan? Okay, you're going to have to show initiative. You're going to have to show enough initiative to go to the school and talk to the school. That's going to increase numbers. Okay, so there are 3 examples, or 1 example of each: a skill, a knowledge, and a behaviour that you will have adhered to as part of your apprenticeship whilst completing this task or utilising this example. All right, really important. What I'd like you to do, guys, we've got about 2-3 minutes left. What I'd like you to do, if possible, if you can, if you do have access to your OneFile, please have a look at the standards resource, right? And can you pop in the question box some examples or some of the standards that you think potentially could have been met?
Yeah, I think
during this reflective account. Okay, if you could all do that for 2 or 3 minutes. Actually, let me see if I can bring the standards. Let me see if I can bring the standards up for you.
I think this is the back end of the one before, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's really weird because I can hear him on mine and yours.
Oh yeah, I think so. Okay.
Boys, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Let's see if you can identify some of the standards, guys. Start popping them in the question box there. Let's see if we can get a few things. Let's see if we can get a few things in there. Just bear with me a second. I'll see if I can get the standards up. Got anything going in there, Darren?
No, not at the moment, mate.
Going to show you where the standards are, guys. If you can you all see this?
Duncan, that's Unit 2, not the Unit 1, mate.
Sorry. Unit 1.
Yeah, it's in Task 1.
Yeah, so if you go down through Unit 1, the first thing that'll come up, guys, there. If we look there, there's your apprenticeship standards. Okay, if I bring that up for you, hopefully you can all see that. So I'm just going to leave the skills up, some of the skills up there for 1 minute. So there's 8 parts in the skills section. Please identify something that you think you may have met during this task. Just have a look there. Okay, quickly, because we're about to run over. So there's some examples of the skills. You see, there's lots and lots of skills. If you look at skill 11, maintaining personal safety and well-being as well as that of the customers, I would suggest that that's one skill that could be met. There's some of the knowledge areas, guys. Again, have a look at that. Maybe if we look at that, we look at knowledge 4, know the importance of effective leadership and coaching in the delivery of a physical activity or sports sessions. So you as a coach are definitely going to be the leader within that after school club, whether it's 4, 6 or 12 or 20 children. Okay. If we go down again, if you go down to behaviors, right, I would suggest, let me have a look at this: honesty, sincerity and integrity by doing the right thing at the right time. Okay, important, guys, that you look at those standards and reference them within your reflective account. Okay, and just sort of the last thing on your reflective account before we finish, do not forget, right at the bottom, guys, you need to complete your signatures. Okay, so you need to complete your signatures, right, your employer signatures, and an independent witness. Okay, under ideal circumstances, I know at the moment that is potentially not possible because you're all working remotely, but normally, okay, these would have to be completed. Okay, all right, guys. So I'm hoping you've all got a little bit of a better understanding of that level 2 community activator coach reflective account. I have run a little bit over, so apologies for that. Hopefully, some of you or most of you are going to jump on the next session. But thank you very much for attending, and hopefully I may see some of you tomorrow on the session that I'm delivering tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Duncan. Really good.
Link into
Much
the chat.
appreciated. Okay, guys. So those who are tuning in for part 1 webinar on the CQI process,